The great chamber of the Galactic Council had stood for over 1 million years. Its walls were made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. 12 species had built this place together, and for all that time, they had ruled the galaxy from within its sacred halls. They believed nothing could ever threaten their power. They were wrong. Ambassador Zethril, of the Valoran hegemony, ran through the massive doors with a speed that shocked everyone present. The Valorans were known for their calm nature and slow movements. They had 4 eyes and gray skin that changed color with their emotions. Right now, Zethril's skin was pure white, the color of absolute terror. "They are coming," he gasped, his words barely making sense through his translator device. "The humans. They have launched everything they have." High Chancellor Morix of the Tethany Collective raised 2 of her 6 arms in a gesture meant to calm him down. She was an ancient creature, over 400 years old, and she had seen many crises come and go. "Please, Ambassador, take a breath. Surely you are mistaken. The humans have been locked on their homeworld for 3 of their centuries. They are no threat to anyone." Zethril shook his large head violently. "No, High Chancellor, you do not understand what I am saying." He pulled out a small device and projected a holographic image into the center of the chamber. Every representative from every species leaned forward to look. The image showed space filled with ships. Not dozens, not hundreds. Thousands upon thousands of vessels moved in perfect formation. They were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Their designs were angular and aggressive, built for one purpose only: war. "We intercepted their communications before our listening posts were destroyed," Zethril continued, his voice shaking. "They call this fleet the Reclamation Armada. Our best count puts their numbers at over 8,000 warships, and they are heading here." Silence fell over the chamber. For a long moment, no one moved. Then chaos erupted as representatives began shouting over each other in a dozen different languages. Far across the galaxy, in orbit around a blue and green world called Earth, Admiral Catherine Cole stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Endeavor. She was 57 years old, with gray streaks running through her dark hair and calm brown eyes that had seen too much pain. Her uniform was simple and practical, bearing no decorations except for a small pin shaped like Earth. Through the massive windows of the bridge, she watched as humanity's greatest achievement came together. Ships emerged from every corner of the solar system. They came from the shipyards of Mars, hidden behind the red planet for 2 centuries. They came from the factories buried deep in the asteroid belt, where generations of workers had lived and died building weapons in secret. They came from bases on moons so distant that alien sensors had never detected them. "Admiral, all fleet commanders are reporting ready status," said Commander Daniel Price, her second in command. He was a young man with short blonde hair and serious blue eyes. His family had served in the preparation effort for 7 generations. Catherine nodded slowly, feeling the weight of 3 centuries of waiting pressing down on her shoulders. "Open a channel to the entire fleet, Daniel." Channel open, Admiral." She took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice carried across the void to millions of men and women serving on thousands of ships. Every one of them had trained their whole lives for this moment. Every one of them carried the memories of what had been done to their ancestors. This is Admiral Cole speaking. 300 years ago, the alien powers of this galaxy decided that humanity was too dangerous to be free. They came to our worlds with their great fleets. They burned our colonies. They killed billions of our people. They pushed us back to Earth and surrounded us with weapons platforms designed to keep us imprisoned forever. She paused, letting her words sink in. They thought they had broken us. They believed that cutting us off from the stars would make us forget who we are. They were fools. We did not spend 3 centuries feeling sorry for ourselves. We spent 3 centuries preparing, building, waiting. On ships throughout the fleet, crew members stood at attention, their eyes fixed on screens showing their admiral's face. Every human alive today was raised on stories of what we lost. Every one of you knows the names of the colonies that burned: New Shanghai, Nova Roma, Esperanza, St. Petersburg Station, and 47 others. We memorized those names so that we would never forget, so that when the day came, we would remember why we fight. Catherine's expression hardened. That day has come. Today we remind the galaxy why they feared humanity in the first place. Today, we take back everything that was stolen from our ancestors. We are not doing this for revenge alone. We are doing this for every human child who will be born free because of what we accomplished today. She straightened her shoulders. All ships, engage jump drives. Destination, the heart of their empire. Let them see us coming. Let them know that humanity has returned. Across the fleet, orders were confirmed and systems activated. The new jump drives, technology that the aliens had never seen, began to power up. These engines could fold space in ways that made the old methods look primitive. Humanity had not wasted a single day of their imprisonment. Back in the council chamber, the holographic display suddenly updated. Every representative watched in horror as the human fleet simply vanished from around Earth. Where did they go? Morix demanded. Before anyone could answer, new alerts began flooding in from across the galaxy. Faster-than-light signatures were appearing everywhere, spreading like fire across a dry forest. The humans were not traveling along the known hyperspace lanes. They were jumping directly through normal space, appearing wherever they wished. That is impossible, whispered the Morvathi representative, his tentacles curling with fear. No species has ever developed jump technology that accurate. They had 300 years with nothing else to do, Zethral said quietly. What did you think they were doing all that time? Sitting around and waiting to die? In the corner of the chamber, a very old creature watched the chaos without speaking. The Kethmari observer was so ancient that no one remembered his true name anymore. His species had been among the first to achieve space travel millions of years ago. They had seen empires rise and fall like waves on a beach. He remembered the debates 3 centuries ago, and the council had decided to contain humanity. He had warned them then. Humans were different from other species. They did not accept defeat. They did not surrender. They adapted, and they held grudges across generations. No one had listened to him then. Now it was too late. The ancient Kethmari looked at the spreading map of human fleet signatures and felt something he had not experienced in a very long time. Genuine fear. Not for himself. He had lived long enough. But fear for what was coming. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. The humans had returned, and they had brought their rage with them. 300 years before the Reclamation Armada launched, humanity had been one of the rising powers in the galaxy. They had discovered how to travel faster than light all by themselves, without any help from other species. In the million-year history of the Galactic Concord, only 4 other species had ever done this. The aliens took notice. Within 50 years of that first discovery, human colonies dotted over 100 worlds. Humans spread faster than anyone had expected. They built cities on frozen moons and burning desert planets. They made homes in places where other species would never think to live. They adapted to everything. The Galactic Council watched with growing worry. Humans were different from other species in ways that made the older powers uncomfortable. They had children quickly and raised them to be independent. They solved problems in strange ways that no one else would consider, and when it came to war, they showed a creativity that made even the ancient Kethmari nervous. When human scientists developed weapons that could make stars explode, the Council made their decision. They could not allow humanity to grow any stronger. Something had to be done. The containment war began without warning. The combined fleets of 12 species descended upon human space with overwhelming numbers. For every human ship, there were 50 alien vessels. The colonies fell one by one. New Shanghai, with its population of 300 million, was turned to ash in a single afternoon. Nova Roma fought for 2 weeks before its defenses finally collapsed. Esperanza, the first colony humanity had ever built, was bombarded until nothing remained but glass and dust. Earth's orbital defenses held out longer than anyone expected. Human admirals threw everything they had at the attacking fleets, using tactics that cost them dearly, but took many aliens with them. In the end, it was not enough. The sky above Earth filled with alien weapons platforms, a permanent reminder of defeat. The war lasted 6 months. When it ended, 2 billion humans were dead. 47 colonies had been completely destroyed. The survivors were pushed back to Earth and locked behind a wall of automated defense systems. Any ship that tried to leave would be destroyed instantly. The Council believed they had solved the human problem. They expected the broken species to slowly fade away, trapped on their single world with no hope of escape. They did not understand humans at all. On the day the last alien fleet withdrew, a young scientist named Gregory Walsh stood in the ruins of what had once been New York City. He was 32 years old, with brown hair covered in dust and eyes that burned with a cold fire. Around him, rescue workers searched through the rubble for survivors. There were not many to find. "We need to start thinking about the future," he said to his colleague, Dr. Laura Bennett. She was a physicist who had lost her entire family when the aliens bombarded the eastern coast. Right now, while the pain is fresh, before anyone starts talking about acceptance, Laura looked at the destruction surrounding them. Broken buildings stretched to the horizon. Smoke still rose from fires that had been burning for days. Above them, alien weapons platforms moved across the sky like metal stars. "What kind of future can we have?" she asked. "They have us trapped. We cannot build ships. We cannot leave. We are prisoners on our own world." Gregory smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. "They are watching our surface. They are monitoring our communications. But they are not looking underground. They think we are broken, Laura. They think we will just give up and die." Psst. He picked up a piece of twisted metal from the ground. It had once been part of a building, or maybe a vehicle. Now it was just debris. "We are going to rebuild," he said quietly. "Not cities. Not normal lives. We are going to build weapons, ships, technology they cannot even imagine. And when we are ready, when our grandchildren's grandchildren are strong enough, we are going to make them pay for every single person they killed." Laura stared at him. "That could take centuries, Gregory. We would never live to see it." "I know," he replied. "That does not matter. What matters is that it happens. We owe it to everyone who died. We owe it to every generation that will have to live under those things." He pointed at the weapons platforms overhead. "We cannot give them freedom, but we can give their children the tools to take it." The quiet centuries began that day. On the surface, humanity appeared broken and defeated. People rebuilt their cities slowly. They grew crops. They had children. They lived lives that seemed normal to the alien observers who occasionally checked on their prisoners. Underground. Everything was different. Massive facilities were carved out beneath mountains and ocean floors. Entire cities were built in caverns so deep that no alien sensor could detect them. The best scientists and engineers were recruited in secret. Disappearing from surface life to dedicate themselves to the great work, Gregory Walsh lived to be 9. He saw the first secret shipyard begin construction beneath the mountains of what had once been Switzerland. He watched the first prototype jump drive destroy itself in testing, and then saw the second one actually work. He died knowing that his dream was becoming real. Laura Bennett took over his work. She lived even longer, reaching 103, before age finally claimed her. By then, the first true warship had been completed and hidden in an asteroid that had been carefully hollowed out. The generations that followed kept the faith. Parents taught their children about the war. They showed them images of burning colonies and mass graves. They made sure no one ever forgot what had been done to humanity. Each generation added to the hidden fleet. Each generation improved the technology. Jump drives became faster and more accurate. Weapons became more powerful. Ships became deadlier. And all of it remained invisible to the aliens who thought they had won. The Council checked on Earth occasionally.
Guys.
Usually every few decades. They saw a primitive world struggling to maintain basic civilization. They saw no threat. They stopped paying attention. That was their greatest mistake. By the time Catherine Cole was born, the preparation was nearly complete. She grew up in one of the underground cities, surrounded by warships that her parents and grandparents had helped build. She learned to pilot fighters before she learned to drive a car. She studied tactics and strategy the way other children studied history and mathematics. The day she was promoted to admiral, the fleet numbered over 8,000 vessels. The waiting was almost over. Catherine stood before the memorial wall that listed every colony and every casualty from the containment war. She placed her hand on the cold stone and made a promise. Soon, she whispered. Very soon. The Valoran border outpost at Station Kethix had been operating peacefully for over 200 years. It was a small station, designed to watch the empty space around Earth and report any unusual activity. Commander Yethanol had been stationed there for 30 years, and in all that time, nothing interesting had ever happened that changed in a single moment. His sensor officer suddenly made a strange choking sound. Yethanol turned to look at his screen and felt his blood turn cold. Ships were appearing out of nowhere. Not one or two, hundreds. Their designs were unlike anything in the Concord database. They were angular and dark, seeming to swallow light rather than reflect it. Send an emergency signal to the homeworld, Yethanol ordered, his voice surprisingly calm. Tell them the humans have broken containment. Those were his last words. The station exploded before the message could even finish transmitting. The human strike group did not slow down. They had many more targets to destroy. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out at the same moment. The automated weapons platforms that had imprisoned Earth for 3 centuries were the first to fall. Human ships appeared around them in precise formations and unleashed weapons that the old defense systems could not even track. Platforms that had been built to contain a primitive species were utterly useless against the technology that 300 years of focused development had produced. On the Endeavor, Admiral Catherine Cole watched the reports come in with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 was proceeding exactly as planned. The cage was breaking. Admiral, Station Kethix has been destroyed, Commander Daniel Price reported. All border outposts in sectors 7 through 12 are offline. The orbital platforms around Earth are gone. What about our losses? Catherine asked. Daniel checked his displays. 0 casualties, Admiral. They never even got a shot off. Catherine nodded but did not smile. This was only the beginning. The real fighting would come soon enough. Signal all fleet elements to proceed to Phase 2. We take the border worlds next. The Tethany homeworld of Tethan Prime was one of the most heavily defended planets in the Concord. Its orbital defense grid had taken 2 centuries to build. 300 warships patrolled its space at all times. The Tethany believed their world was completely safe from any attack. Admiral Benjamin Hayes led the 3rd Assault Fleet against them. He was a tall man with dark skin and a shaved head, known throughout the fleet for his calm demeanor and brilliant tactical mind. He had studied alien warfare for 40 years, learning every weakness and every pattern. Admiral, the Tethani Defense Fleet is moving to intercept, reported Lieutenant Amy Crawford from the sensor station. She was young, only 25, but she had trained for this her entire life. 312 vessels. They are forming a standard shield wall formation.
Oh, yes.
Benjamin almost laughed. A shield wall. The same formation that had worked against human ships 3 centuries ago. The Tethany had not updated their tactics at all. Why would they? No one had challenged them in generations. Open a communication channel to their command ship, Benjamin ordered. Let them talk before we begin. The holographic image of a Tethany general appeared on the bridge. She was a creature of 6 arms and a face covered in hard plates, with eyes that burned with arrogance. Human vessel, you are in violation of the containment accords. This is your only warning. Surrender now, and you may be granted mercy. The containment accords. You mean the agreement that allowed you to murder billions of our people and lock the survivors in a prison? That agreement? The Tethani general made a dismissive gesture with 2 of her arms. Ancient history. The decision was necessary. Your species was too dangerous to be allowed free expansion. Surely you understand this by now? Well, I understand perfectly, Benjamin replied. I understand that you killed my great-great-grandmother on New Shanghai. I understand that you burned the colony where my family had lived for 3 generations. I understand that every human alive today was born in a cage that you built. Then you understand why you cannot win. The Concord crushed you once. We will do so again." Benjamin smiled, and there was no warmth in it. 300 years ago, you faced a young species that had barely begun to explore the stars. Today, you face something very different. We have had nothing to do but prepare for this moment. Every scientist, every engineer, every soldier, all working toward one goal. He stood up from his chair. "Your formation is outdated. Your weapons are primitive. Your shields cannot stop what we are about to throw at you. But I want you to understand something before we begin." The Tethany general watched him with growing unease. "This is not about conquest," Benjamin continued. "This is not about territory or resources. This is about justice. You took everything from us. Now we are taking it back." He turned to his crew. "All ships, weapons free. Show them what 300 years of human engineering looks like." The third assault fleet moved forward like a wave of black metal. Their weapons were things that Tethany's sensors could barely detect. Energy beams of frequencies that had never been weaponized before. Missiles that could change direction faster than any defense system could track. Kinetic rounds fired at speeds that turned simple metal into planet-killing force. The Tethany shield wall lasted 8 minutes. Ship after ship exploded as human weapons tore through shields that had been considered unbreakable. The general's command vessel was one of the last to fall. She had just enough time to realize how badly she had underestimated her enemy before. Her bridge was vaporized. When the battle ended, not a single Tethany warship remained. The orbital defense grid was slag, and the third assault fleet had lost exactly 4 ships. On Tethan Prime, billions of Tethany looked up at the sky and saw human vessels where their defenders had been. Many of them felt real fear for the first time in their lives. The humans did not attack the planet. They simply broadcast a single message that played on every screen and speaker across the world. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your defenses are gone. We could turn your world to ash if we chose. But we are not you. Remember this mercy. Spread the word to your allies. Humanity has returned, and we are coming for the Council next." The message ended. The human fleet remained in orbit for exactly 1 hour, letting the people below understand their helplessness. Then they jumped away, leaving Tethan Prime untouched, but changed forever. The news spread across the Concord faster than any official communication. The Tethany, one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, had been defeated in less than an hour. Their entire defense fleet was gone, and the humans had barely tried. Fear began to grow in species that had never known. Fear before, High Chancellor Morix had not slept in 6 days. The reports coming in from across the galaxy were each worse than the last. The humans were everywhere, striking with a speed and precision that defied everything the Concord understood about warfare. The Valoran hegemony had lost 60% of its fleet. In a single engagement, the Morvathi Dominion had seen their 3 largest military bases destroyed in attacks that lasted less than an hour each. The Krell Union had surrendered after human ships. It simply appeared in orbit around their homeworld and demanded it. Morix called an emergency session of the full council. Every species sent their highest representatives. The chamber, that had once felt like a place of absolute power, now felt like a tomb. "We are facing extinction," said Representative Kellix of the Morvathi Dominion. His tentacles writhed with anxiety as he spoke. "Our combined fleets have been shattered. The humans have technology we cannot match. We must sue for peace immediately." "On what terms?" demanded General Vethkul of the Valoran Military Command. "They have not made any demands. They simply attack and move on. They destroyed Station Kethix without even trying to communicate. Perhaps they do not want to negotiate," said the Tethany representative quietly. She had replaced the previous one, who had resigned in shame after the disaster at Tethan Prime. "Perhaps they simply want us dead," now said a voice from the back of the chamber. The ancient Kethmari observer rose slowly from his seat. He moved with the weight of uncountable years, but his eyes were still sharp. "They do not want you dead. If they did, you would already be dead." Their fleet could have glassed your homeworlds. They chose not to. Then what do they want? Morix asked desperately. The old Kethmari walked slowly to the center of the chamber. I warned your predecessors 3 centuries ago. I told them that containment was a mistake. Humans are not like other species. They do not accept defeat. They do not forget offenses. They pass their grudges down through generations like precious treasures. He looked around at the frightened faces of 12 species. You killed billions of their people. You destroyed their colonies. You locked them in a prison for 300 years. Did you really think there would be no consequences? What would you have had us do? Morix demanded. Allow them to keep developing weapons that could destroy stars. Allow them to spread across the galaxy without any control. You could have treated with them as equals, the Kethmari replied. You could have welcomed them into the Concord and let their energy work for the common good. Instead, you chose fear, and now fear has come for you. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The holographic display in the center of the chamber activated automatically. Showing the space around the council station, ships were appearing. Human ships. Thousands of them. They are here, someone whispered. Admiral Catherine Cole stood on the bridge of the Endeavor as her fleet completed its jump to the galactic core. The great station hung before them, a massive structure of crystal and metal that had housed the council for over 1 million years. It was beautiful, she had to admit. Beautiful and ancient and completely defenseless. Admiral, the council defense fleet is forming up, Daniel reported. Approximately 40,000 vessels from all 12 species. They outnumber us 5 to 1. Catherine studied the display calmly. Formation and tactics. Standard Concord battle doctrine. Multiple shield walls with heavy ships in the center and lighter vessels on the flanks. They are positioning their strongest units to protect the station itself. Catherine almost smiled. Standard doctrine. The same tactics they had used for thousands of years. The same tactics that had worked against every enemy they had ever faced. They had never fought an enemy like humanity before. Open a channel to the fleet, she ordered. Channel open. Admiral, all ships, this is Admiral Cole. The enemy has gathered everything they have left to stop us here. They outnumber us 5 to 1. They believe that numbers will save them. She paused. Show them how wrong they are. All ships, deploy formation Omega 7. Break their lines and scatter their fleet. We end this today. The human fleet moved forward like a single organism. Their formation was nothing the Concord had ever seen before. Ships wove through each other in patterns that seemed random, but were actually precisely calculated. They presented no fixed targets, no vulnerable flanks. The Concord fleet fired first. Thousands of weapons launched toward the approaching humans. It was the largest barrage in the history of galactic warfare. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic projectiles, and exotic weapons that had been held in reserve for emergencies. All flew toward the human ships. The humans did not even try to dodge. Their shields simply absorbed everything thrown at them. Energy that should have vaporized their vessels instead vanished. Against barriers that glowed briefly and then returned to invisibility. It's impossible, whispered a Valoran admiral as he watched his most powerful weapons accomplish nothing. The humans reached optimal range and returned fire. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Human weapons cut through Concord ships like they were made of paper. Destroyers that had been considered nearly invincible exploded after single hits. Battleships that had taken decades to build died in seconds. The shield walls broke within the first hour. The careful formations dissolved into chaos as ship captains tried desperately to escape the killing ground. Some attempted to flee through hyperspace, only to find that human vessels were jamming their jump drives. There was nowhere to go. Admiral Catherine Cole watched the destruction without expression. Part of her felt satisfaction. These were the people who had murdered her ancestors, who had burned human colonies, who had imprisoned her species for 3 centuries. They deserved everything that was happening to them. But another part of her simply felt tired. She had trained her entire life for this day. She had dreamed of this moment since she was a child. Now that it was happening, she found herself thinking about what would come after. Admiral Daniel said quietly, "The enemy fleet has been reduced to approximately 6,000 vessels. Most are too damaged to fight. The rest are attempting to surrender. Accept their surrenders," Catherine ordered. "We are not here to commit genocide. Order all ships to cease fire on any vessel that powers down its weapons." The battle ended 6 hours after it began. Of the 40,000 ships that had gathered to defend the Council, fewer than 4,000 remained intact. The human fleet had lost fewer than 200 vessels. The Endeavour moved slowly toward the great station, its weapons trained on the ancient structure. Catherine looked at the crystal spires and the glowing walls and thought about all the decisions that had been made inside those halls. The decision to attack humanity, the decision to burn the colonies, the decision to build the containment grid.
"I'll signal the station,"
she said. "Tell them we are coming aboard, and tell them that if anyone tries anything foolish, we will reduce that entire structure to atoms." The response came quickly. The Council would receive her. Catherine left Daniel in command of the ship and took a shuttle to the station. She brought no guards, no weapons. She wanted the Council to see a single human walking through their halls. She wanted them to understand that she did not fear them at all. The doors of the Council chamber opened before her. 12 species watched as she walked inside. Many of them had never seen a human in person. The old stories had described monsters and savages. They saw a middle-aged woman with gray in her hair and calm eyes that showed no anger. The calm was the most frightening thing of all. "Admiral," Catherine Cole walked through the core. Eiders of the Council station with slow, measured steps. Her boots echoed against floors that no human had walked upon in 300 years. The walls glowed with that soft blue light from the living crystal, beautiful and ancient. Guards of various species watched her pass but made no move to stop her. What would be the point? Their fleets were destroyed. Their power was broken. She could have brought an army, but she came alone because she wanted them to understand something important. Humanity was not afraid of them anymore. The great doors of the Council chamber swung open at her approach. Inside, representatives of 12 species sat in their traditional places, ranged in a circle that was supposed to represent equality and cooperation. Catherine noticed that several seats were empty. Some representatives had fled before she arrived. Others had chosen not to face what was coming. High Chancellor Morix rose as Catherine entered. The Tethany was trying to maintain her dignity, but Catherine could see the fear in the way her 6 arms trembled slightly. Admiral Cole Morix said, her translator rendering the words in a formal tone. "You have committed acts of war against the Galactic Concord. You have destroyed fleets and stations across our territory. What do you have to say for yourself?" Catherine stopped in the center of the chamber, exactly where the holographic displays usually appeared. She looked around at the gathered representatives, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. Some looked away. Others tried to stare back but could not hold her gaze for long. 300 years ago, Catherine began, her voice calm and clear, your predecessors gathered in this very chamber. They discussed what to do about a young species called humanity. A species that had discovered faster than light travel on their own. A species that was spreading across the stars with a speed that worried you. She started walking slowly around the circular chamber, passing each representative one by one. They decided that we were too dangerous, too creative, too unpredictable. They voted to contain us before we could grow any stronger. And then they sent their combined fleets to make that decision a reality. Catherine paused in front of the Valoran section. Ambassador Zethrel, who had first brought news of the human fleet, sat there looking like he wished he could disappear. Your ships burned our colonies. New Shanghai, Nova, Roma, Esperanza. 47 worlds, where human families had built lives and raised children. You turned them all to ash. She continued walking. You killed 2 billion of our people, not soldiers, not combatants, families, children, people who had done nothing wrong except exist in a galaxy that feared them. The Tethany representative looked down at the floor. The Morvathi's tentacles curled tightly against his body. Then you surrounded our homeworld with weapons platforms and declared that humanity would never leave Earth again. You told yourselves that you had solved the problem. You stopped paying attention to us because you believed we had accepted our defeat. Yes. Catherine stopped walking. She stood before High Chancellor Morix now, close enough to touch her if she wished. We did not accept it. We spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. Every scientist working to build better weapons. Every engineer designing ships that could defeat your fleets. Every parent teaching their children about what you did to us. We never forgot. We never forgave. And we never stopped planning for the day we would be strong enough to face you again. Morix's translator struggled to convey her words. What do you want from us? Territory. Resources. We can negotiate terms that satisfy both sides. Can you bring back the dead? Catherine asked quietly. Can you restore the colonies you destroyed? Can you give us back 300 years of freedom that you stole? Silence answered her.
Ow.
Catherine continued. You cannot. Nothing can undo what was done. No amount of territory or resources can balance the scales. She turned to address the entire chamber once more. Right now, 12 assault fleets are positioned around your homeworlds. One command from me, and those worlds burned just like our colonies burned. One word, and your species faced the same extinction you tried to inflict on us. Terror rippled through the chamber. Some representatives began pleading. Others offered everything they had. The Morvathi promised their entire treasury. The Valoran offered unconditional surrender. The noise built until Catherine raised her hand, and silence fell instantly. But we are not you, she said. We did not cross the stars to commit genocide. We came to deliver a message, and to set terms for a new order. She walked to the center of the chamber again, where everyone could see her clearly. First, the Galactic Concord is dissolved. This institution that ordered the imprisonment of humanity has no right to exist. You will govern yourselves, trade with each other, make your own alliances and treaties, but you will never again combine your power to crush another species. Morix started to object, but Catherine's cold stare silenced her. Second, all former human territory is ours again. The systems where our colonies once stood belong to us. We will rebuild what you destroyed. Third, there will be no reparations, no apologies, no ceremonies of reconciliation. We do not want your words. We want you to remember. Every generation of your people should know what happened here. They should know what it cost you. And they should know what will happen if anyone ever threatens humanity again. Catherine paused, letting her words sink in. If any species attacks human territory, if any government attempts to contain or imprison us, if anyone repeats the mistakes your ancestors made, there will be no negotiation, no warning, no mercy. We will reduce the offending civilization to dust and move on with our lives. She looked at the ancient Kethmari observer who had watched everything in silence. You've tried to warn them once. I read the historical records. You told them that containment would only delay the inevitable. The old creature nodded slowly. They did not listen. They rarely do. Will they listen now? Catherine asked. They will never forget this day, the Kethmari replied. Neither will their children or their children's children. You have ensured that, Admiral? Catherine turned back to the assembled representatives. This session is concluded. Spread the word to your governments. Humanity has returned to the stars and we intend to stay. Any species that wishes peaceful relations will find us reasonable. Any species that chooses hostility will find us ready. She walked toward the doors, then stopped and looked back over her shoulder. Remember what happens when you cage a species that refuses to be broken? Remember and be grateful that we chose to show more mercy than you showed us. Admiral Catherine Cole walked out of the council chamber, leaving 12 species to contemplate a galaxy that had changed forever in the weeks that followed. But humanity spread across the stars once more. Ships carrying colonists and builders traveled to the old systems, landing on worlds that had been empty for 3 centuries. New cities rose where old ones had been destroyed. Children played in parks built on ground that had once been scorched by alien weapons. Catherine returned to Earth for the first time since the war began. She traveled to a memorial garden that had been built in old New York City, on the exact spot where Gregory Walsh and Laura Bennett had first planned humanity's long revenge. Two statues stood there now, showing the two scientists as they had looked in their youth. The inscription beneath read, "They told us to accept our cage. We built wings instead." Catherine placed her hand on the cold stone and stood in silence for a long time. "We did it," she finally said. "We kept the faith." Every generation added to the work until it was done. The colonies are ours again. The stars are open. Our children will grow up free. A new plaque had been added after the war ended. It read, "We remember. We returned. We remain." Catherine read those words and felt something loosen in her chest. The rage that had driven her entire life was finally beginning to fade. Not disappearing, never that, but softening into something she could live with. Around her, the city of New York bustled with life. Children ran through the streets, laughing and playing games. Above them, the sky was clear and blue, unmarked by alien weapons platforms. And beyond the sky, across the endless void of space, the stars waited. Humanity had reclaimed its place in the galaxy. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had proven that no cage could hold them forever. The universe would not forget that lesson for a very long time.